Nelk boys were mainly known for their outrageous pranks and challenge videos until they decided to broaden their horizons and partner with globally recognized sports entities such as the UFC. The problem is, Nelk's takes on MMA are borderline casual, and the way they treat UFC fighters doesn't sit well with fans. The fact that Nelk boys keep getting away with stuff most MMA media personalities won't have raised many questions about their budding relationship with the UFC. How did the two parties come together? Why did Nelk keep getting away with trolling fighters? And how's the UFC benefiting from them? Welcome back to MMA Uncovered. In today's video, we'll be covering the popular relationship between UFC's president, Dana White, and one of the most influential YouTube groups, the Nelk Boys. Before taking a deeper dive into the UFC's relationship with Nelk Boys, let's take a quick look at their history, content style, and some of their main characters. The original Nelk crew consisted of Jesse Sebastiani, Lucas Gasparini, and Kyle Forgard, who happens to be Dana White's favorite Nelk. The channel had its humble beginnings as Nelk Films in 2013, but was rebranded as Nelk a couple years later. They rose to prominence with a viral video in 2015 titled Coke Prank on Cops. The prank goes something like this. Kyle and his crew purposefully park illegally and act sketchy as they're approached by a police officer. After some questioning from the officer, Kyle blurts out that they have Coke in the back. A GoPro's rigged to the top of the trunk to record the reactions of the officers once they discover it was Coke, as in Coca-Cola, and not cocaine. The prank wasn't well received by the police department, but the boys managed to get away with it somehow. Nelk's prank on Cops marked the beginning of their YouTube notoriety, and they continued to get in trouble with a number of controversial pranks after that. Their notorious pranks saw them get in trouble with YouTube as well, as they struggled to keep their channel monetized over consistent periods of time. Luckily, Nelk Boys had developed a huge cult following by 2018, and instead of solely relying on YouTube revenue to make ends meet, they decided to launch their own merchandise and add more channels, like the Full Send podcast, to partner with other content creators and sports entities. For example, Full Send MMA, which is a subsidiary of their Full Send podcast, was launched in 2022 to cover mixed martial arts.
Alright boys, welcome to the Full Send MMA channel.
Shawnee Mack is the channel's main reporter, UFC bantamweight Sean O'Malley is its ambassador, and Dana White is an honorary Nelk member. Kyle Forgard and Steve DeLeonardis, notably known as Steve Will Do It, are also a part of the Nelk Boys team that covers the UFC. But wait, how did Dana White become Nelk's honorary member? There are a couple versions of how Dana White met the Nelk Boys. According to Kyle Forgard, the two met through Dana White's son, who happened to meet Kyle in a bar a few years ago. However, sportscaster Bob Menery, who helped launch the Full Send podcast, claims credit for introducing Dana to Nelk and inviting him to their podcast. Menery's version proved to be true when he had a fallout with Kyle Forgard due to a financial dispute. Menery claimed that he was the one who built the Full Send podcast from scratch, but Kyle later cut him out because he didn't want to share the earnings. To prove his point, Menery took to social media and posted clips of various celebrities he'd brought on the Full Send podcast, including Dana White. Dana was pissed after being dragged into the dispute and fired back by calling Menery a crybaby in an Instagram story. With Bob Menery in the rearview mirror, Dana White and Kyle Forgard strengthened their ties by offering favors to one another. Dana made the first move by allowing VIP access to the Fight Island to Nelk Boys in 2020. In addition to that, Nelk gained access to many notable UFC fighters. Khabib Nurmagomedov was one of the first victims of their somewhat lighthearted prank in 2020. In a video that went viral, Kyle Forgard asked Khabib to give him some tips to fight Jorge Masvidal because he wanted to teach the Miami native a lesson for sleeping with his girlfriend. Khabib jokingly told Kyle to buy a dog. The former UFC lightweight champion also appeared on the Full Send podcast later, before the Nelk Boys decided to visit Dagestan, Russia themselves, find out why the region continues to produce legends like Khabib and Islam Makhachev, who Kyle even rolled with on the mat. The YouTubers have also been seen doing the shoey with UFC heavyweight Tai Tuivasa on a number of occasions. While their relationship with Khabib and Tai Tuivasa seems pretty friendly, that isn't the case with Luke Rockhold and Nate Diaz. During a backstage interview in 2022, Nate Diaz slapped Nelk Boys MMA reporter Shawnee Mack for turning his teammate Nick Maximov into a meme. Luke Rockhold was also pissed at Mack for disrespecting UFC bantamweight Marlon Chito Vera by gifting him a Mexican luchador mask. Well, Vera is an Ecuadorian. Luke Rockhold put Mack and the Nelk Boys in their place by telling them to do their homework before interviewing fighters. Another story featuring Dana and Nelk Boys that raised many eyebrows in the MMA community was the UFC president gifting Kyle Forgard $250,000 on his birthday. With the UFC regularly facing backlash for paying its fighters peanuts, Dana's generosity towards Kyle was met with disdain. Dana couldn't care less about his critics, and he fired back at them by saying that he can do whatever the hell he wants with his money. Fair enough.
You know, if you look at what Kyle and the Nelk Boys have done as far as Howlerhead and a lot of other things that they've done, those kids have never asked me for anything, ever. Never asked me for anything, and they couldn't be better people. Kyle has done so many things for me. And believe me, the $250,000 that I gave him for his birthday does not cover the amount of things that kid has done for me.
Other than $250,000, Dana gifted Nelk with something way bigger, a blockbuster interview with Donald Trump in 2022. The episode was unfortunately banned by YouTube over the former president's dishonest comments about the Ukraine-Russia war and the 2020 election. So how do the Nelk boys stay on the good side of Dana White? For a start, they've helped Dana White a great deal in promoting one of the UFC's main sponsors, the Howlerhead whiskey brand. Nelk member Steve DeLeonardis even gifted Dana a custom-made Howlerhead van, which was worth $3,000. In addition to promoting the UFC's business partners, Nelk boys have also done a tremendous job of spreading out the UFC gospel to its younger audience. With MMA promotions like One Championship and the PFL threatening to break the UFC's hegemony in the United States, the UFC needed opinion leaders to set their brand apart from the rest of their competitors. And Nelk boys have helped the UFC achieve that goal through Full Send Podcast and its MMA-centered subsidiary, Full Send MMA. The MMA channel is mainly run by Shawnee Mack, who is often seen interviewing the top UFC fighters and raising questions during press conferences. The channel, which was launched in 2022, currently has 83,000 subscribers and over 50 million views. Of course, those aren't huge numbers considering the influence that Nelk boys hold in the world of content creation. Full Send MMA is just a drop in the ocean of everything they're doing for the UFC. They may be casual fans of the sport, but their service is pretty hardcore, and that's why Dana White loves them. As a businessman, Dana couldn't care less if Nelk boys hand out luchador masks to an Ecuadorian or troll one of the biggest stars in the sport. What's important for the UFC is revenue, and Nelk is their new cash cow that's delivering for now. How long will this partnership last? For now, it's going quite well since Nelk boys are adding their own unique flair to mixed martial arts, but who knows what the future holds. How long do you guys think the partnership between Dana White and Nelk boys will last? Give us your thoughts in the comments section. That being said, you just watched our video on how Dana White and Nelk boys came together and why the YouTubers are cherished by the UFC president. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Also, comment down below what video you want to see next. Until next time.